Welcome to lesson 1 of Profitable Online Blog. Now this course is a little bit unique in that you actually have 2 instructors, myself and Tony Anderson, and we've been blogging for well over a decade now. And between the 2 of us, we know almost all there is to know about blogging and how to make money with content marketing. Now the topic of this first video is the 5 blogging business models.
So I'm curious, Steve, when you started blogging, did you have a business model? Did you have a plan when you first got started? I didn't really have a plan. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I had no idea how I was going to make it into a business.
I did not have a plan at all. In fact, when I first got started, the reason I did was because all my friends were asking me how we started an e-commerce store and how we started making money so my wife could quit her job. And instead of just answering all my friends with the same stuff over and over and over again, I decided to document all that stuff on a WordPress blog. And I remember in the very beginning with this blog, I just started putting out any random stuff, and my friends actually did not end up reading it. And instead, I had random people just following me, and over time, I ended up developing a big following. But there was no plan for monetization whatsoever.
So at what point did you realize, like, hey, I can make money from this. This is something that I can do and even possibly replace my day job?
Yeah, so once I started writing, I started reading other people's blogs. And I remember this one specific guy, his name was Steve Pavlina, and he put out this blog post called How to Make Your First Love Dollar. And in that post, he revealed that he was making $4,000 per day on AdSense. And when I saw that article, I was like, hey, I can do this myself, and perhaps one day I could replace my day job income. What about you?
So for me, I was basically the same thing as you. I wanted to answer the questions that people were asking me over and over again, and I felt like I was telling the same stories over and over. So I decided to put it on a blog, and I actually didn't even tell my family that I had a blog initially because I was not embarrassed, but I just felt like this was a new thing and I didn't want to put it out there until I thought it was good enough, which is something we'll probably cover later too. And one day I actually got an email from Oliver North's publicist, and she was interested in using a piece of my content in Oliver North's newsletter. And it hit me that if Oliver North or Oliver North's publicist could find my blog, maybe other people out there could find my blog, and maybe other people would want to work with me in some sort of way. So that was sort of the point where I realized that blogging was bigger than just sharing my story, and it could be turned into something that was lucrative and give me the opportunity. For me personally, I wanted to find something where I could stay at home and not have to put my kids in daycare and be able to attend all my kids' events. And blogging is so flexible, and that was why it appealed to me in the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. When I told my mom what I was doing, she was like, you're going to do what? This is not going to replace your engineering income. And, many years later, I can actually tell her now how much I make with the blog. And she still doesn't understand how I make money. Actually, she thinks I deal drugs, which I assured her it's not the case.
Yeah, see, so I have a degree in political science. My parents were thrilled that I was actually able to make money doing something. So I had a little bit of a different thing. So there's actually so many different ways to make money on a blog, but we're going to talk about 5 of what I consider like the basics. And so the first one we're going to discuss is how to drive traffic to your pages for your e-commerce store. Another way to make money from your blog is to sell digital products. One that's getting really popular right now is growing a paid community. And then there's the option to create content to become an expert. And finally, the last one is to become an influencer. So the first one, Steve, you're actually pretty familiar with, and that's driving traffic to your content pages.
Yeah, so I run this class that teaches people how to start an e-commerce store. And one of the biggest problems that my students have is how to drive traffic to their store website. And the best way to do this is with a blog. By putting out content that demonstrates your expertise on a particular topic, you can then funnel people who land on your blog post to your online store and generate physical product sales. Yeah, and I know, Tony, you run an e-commerce store yourself, and you've been using blogging as well to drive traffic to your products as well, right?
Yes, and I know for you, Steve, you use your blog as sort of an SEO tool, and for me, I've used it more as a social media tool, but there's lots of different ways that you can use that content to drive traffic for people to find you.
Right, including Pinterest, right? Is that how you do it? Yeah.
Yeah. But I've also seen people, Instagram works really well in certain niches. And, obviously Facebook is a sort of a staple for most people too.
But the key thing is you need content in order to be able to share that content online.
Absolutely. So the next one is something that actually was one of the first ways that I made money on my blog, which is selling digital products. And these, if physical products scare you because of the cost involved, so physical products, obviously you have to invest in a product. Digital products are basically free. And what I did actually was I found content on my blog that was already doing well. And then I turned that content into a more robust product that people could pay for and download.
And when it comes to digital downloads, it doesn't have to be a PDF. You can actually sell access to videos, audio files, whatever you have in your arsenal.
A really cool way to make money on your blog that will actually bring you in recurring revenue is to create a community of like-minded individuals that will pay you a monthly, quarterly, or yearly fee to be a part of a community that you run.
And Tony, I know that you've run these challenges in the past, and I've actually taken the No Sugar Challenge. It's a great way to get a group of people together with a common goal and then monetize that group.
And it's amazing the different topics that actually work for this. When I first started researching this, when I got into my when I started my fitness community, I pretty much thought you could basically create a community of business people or fitness people. But when I started researching all the different types of communities out there, anything that people are passionate about, they're probably likely to want to be part of a community and they're willing to pay money to be part of it.
And the key thing to realize with the community is that you don't actually have to charge that much money. So we have a friend who charges $5 a month and she's amassed over 1,000 members. And it all adds up over time. $5,000 a month is nothing to sneeze at.
So another way you can earn money from your blog is to become an expert. And Steve, you've actually done this with My Wife Quit Her Job, but you've actually said in the past that you don't even feel like you're an e-commerce expert, even though millions of people read your site and want to learn more from you.
Yeah, I don't like the word expert because the word expert implies that you know everything there is to know about it. And when it comes to putting out content to prove your expertise, the key thing to realize is that you just need to be expert enough. You just have to know more than the audience that you are addressing. And I know both you and I, Tony, we often have imposter syndrome. The key thing is you don't have to consider yourself an expert to put out content online because just the aspect of documenting your journey, people will already see you as an expert in their eyes.
And it's important to remember that there's probably people out there that are 1 to 2 steps behind where you are. So that content is going to be super helpful and beneficial, and they're able to learn from you.
Absolutely. Even today, I've been running my class for almost a decade now. I still don't consider myself an expert. I, by no means, am like the foremost expert on any given topic in e-commerce, but what I teach is very relatable to my audience, and that's why people buy from me.
And a little bit different than becoming an expert is to actually become an influencer.
Now, the difference between becoming an influencer versus an expert in your topic is that when you're an influencer, people buy what you recommend because they like you, not necessarily because you're an expert in any given topic. Now, Tony, I know that you've done a great job in this, and you are an influencer in the lifestyle space.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But yes, an influencer is different than an expert because as an influencer, as an expert, Steve, you could run your course and maintain a pretty low profile, right? But
yeah.
If you're an influencer, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And in fact, when I first started making the influencer marketing part of my business strategy, I did a lot of TV, I did a lot of media. I was even offered a reality TV show. So I think if you're thinking about taking this business strategy, you have to be prepared to put yourself out in the public a little bit more than some of these other business strategies that we've mentioned.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're portraying yourself as an expert. You could probably hide behind a computer monitor, which is what I'm used to doing as a former electrical engineer.
And the way that you make money as an influencer is basically by generating traffic to your website. And then you make money by advertising, affiliate marketing, and then working with brands through sponsored campaigns or even becoming a brand ambassador.
But the key thing to realize here is that all those business models that we just talked about are not mutually exclusive. So even though that I am considered an expert in my topic of e-commerce, I'm also an influencer as well. I put myself out there and I also make money through affiliate marketing, advertising, and all those other methods that Tony just mentioned.
And that's what's so great about building a blog as a business is that you don't have to stick to one model. You can actually incorporate all these different models and create a very diverse and profitable business.
And oftentimes it's the content that will dictate your future. So in my case, people started asking me to put out a digital course on e-commerce because of these popular pieces of content that I'd put out. And that's what led me to go down the expert route and create a digital course for sale.
So when it comes to a business model, you don't have to decide right now. And in fact, if you're confused about this, we're going to walk you through an activity that will help you narrow down what type of content you might want to start with to help build your business.
So stay tuned for the next lesson.